Okay, it appears I'm live. Apologize for the audio. Number one, I have a creaky voice. I'm still fighting something. And number two, my studio is currently being rid of rodents once again. I don't feel very comfortable going in there. So, I figured tonight, in order to keep my practice up, I would share a little story, nothing too long. I was listening to Bert Kreischer, who is an amazing comedian, fantastic comedian. And he was talking about the first time he had sex, and how he basically was one and done, and he went in between the mattress and the butt cheek, and yeah, he was telling me it was pretty crazy. Well, he wasn't telling me. I don't know Bert Kreischer personally. I'd love to, but anyway, so it inspired me to go live on my phone and record a story about the first time I had relations with a woman. And it was perfect, as you could imagine. All right. Now, to frame the scene here, I'm on my bed. My family is out of town. Wife, 2 kids, grandma, they're all out of town. They went to see my sister-in-law get married. And she's understanding that I really didn't want to take a trip so soon after an earth-shattering funeral, which I'll get to in a moment. But I don't want to take the sexy away from the story. So I've been here this weekend all by myself, rattling around in this big house. And right now, I am sharing my bedroom with a cat and a dog. And the dog is hyperactive almost every moment of every day. And the cat just eats and wants to eat and loves wet food and will eat wet food all day long. Speaking of wet food, I don't know where I was going with that. So, okay. So, the first time that I had sex was picture perfect in a way. It was with a girl I'd been with for a long time. A girl who I felt that I was in love with, and a girl who had basically taken me further than anyone else I'd ever been with. So, of course, being young, I figured this is love. And now my dog is digging the carpet. I don't know why. And now the cat is here. Say hello, cat. Cat's wondering who I'm talking to. Cat's nose to nose with me. What are you doing, kitty cat? You okay? Can you find out why the dog's digging at the carpet, please? Do you need something? You've had like 4 cans of wet food today, dude. I am not feeding you again. Anyway, so this was a girl who I had shared everything with, was completely crazy about, although at that age, I was about 17. At that age, everyone's crazy about somebody or something. Hormones racing, everything's going and moving at such a rapid speed. Changes are going on. Although I look at it, and as a matter of fact, I would take that stuff any day over some of the stuff that's happened. So, now, keep in mind, the only reason I'm doing this story, well, number one, the inspiration of Bert Kreischer, great comedian. But number two is because of the very deaths that I've had to endure. One of the two things have been keeping me from fully unleashing myself onto internet radio with personal stories, anecdotes, because I've lived a pretty interesting life. I'm full of stories, but 2 things have kept me from unleashing myself on the airwaves. One, my mother. And and two, somehow that my grandmother would find out. I didn't want to disappoint these women by my obvious failings in life, even though they were funny and they'd probably understand. I just felt scared to do it. Actually, a third thing would be my job. I'm always worried that one day my boss is going to call me in and say, "Yeah, I heard that podcast the other day." Even though you use a different name, everybody knows it's you, so I trust you'll find your way out the door. Anyway, until that day comes, away we go. So, it was prom night. How stereotypical can you get? Prom night. Losing it on prom night. And so we have a great time. And we go back to my house. You know, we had a limo and everything else. I mean, the limo took me and my friends, and her, and we double dated. Took me and some people to the prom and then dropped us off. And we had been sleeping over at each other's houses because of the nature of our relationship. We were actually in long-distance relations, and our parents let us sleep together in the same room as long as there was sleeping going on. Well, you know, there was other stuff going on. Exploration, I guess you could say. And it actually all culminated into this very moment. So we decide, prom night, we're gonna break the seal, as it were. And you know, I had a condom, of course, protection first, and slid it on. And you know, it was funny. A lot of guys talk about lasting. The first time they feel the inside of a woman, they just can't help it but just go plow. I didn't have that problem, luckily. I wouldn't say I was a stud by any, you know, because that's just, you know, might as well drive a lifted truck trying to compensate. But I didn't have too bad of a time. Was gentle, was slow, everything was fine. I was in the right spot. I kind of knew the area. And it turns out, afterwards, she had the most interesting reaction. And I've seen some very interesting reactions. I've seen a woman go from English to Spanish in her dirty talk. That was interesting. I've seen a woman... Well, I gotta think about it now. I've seen a couple other interesting reactions that are akin to The Exorcist, but this reaction was a first, obviously, because it was the first time I'd been with anybody, but it still is the only time it's ever happened. After we had tested the waters, I guess you could say, she rolled over, fell to the floor, my naked girlfriend, and cried. She kneeled on the floor and cried, and I'm talking heaving sobs. Now I'm sitting there going, what'd I do wrong? I look down, there's blood on my condom. I'm like, oh, that's supposed to happen? I think it's supposed to happen. Yeah, it's supposed to happen. Okay, so that's supposed to happen. So I ask her, what's wrong? Was I that bad? And she says no, she had made a promise to her mom that she would not lose her virginity until she was married. And then she just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. Strangest thing. The next year, we went to prom again. Apparently, she'd been broken in because she was sleeping with someone else when we went to prom, and found out about it at prom. I had to live with that while I went to a friend of hers house, stayed the night. I was so sick and so hurt. One of the craziest things in my life. And that's the story of the first time.